Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'd like to welcome you to DuVall Elementary. My name is Mr. Addy. I'm the principal of this building, and I'd like to welcome you to movie night here today. And as we get started, I would like to introduce you to Sue Doman, who worked with our art studio students here at DuVall, and Pam Deneen, as Sue also worked with the students over at Lindbergh Elementary as well too. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Sue to introduce you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm Mrs. Doman. And before my wonderful students present their special film for you, I'd like to acknowledge some special people that are here tonight. First of all, my principals, Pam Deneen and Mr. Addy, Robert Addy, and our mayor, and DuVall neighbor, Mayor O'Reilly, Dr. Glenn Maleko, Superintendent of Dearborn Public Schools, and a former principal of DuVall, Administrator Jill Chokel, retiring Art Resource Leader Kate Blair, and our new Artwork Resource Leader, Susan Griggs. Thank you so much for coming. Our friends from the Henry Ford Estate, Ann LaShaw, Director of Education, Karen Marzoni, Director of Landscapes, and docents Richard and Ruth Gotza. Our friends at the Benson Research Library. Thank you, Linda. And we made this movie with the generous support from our many organizations, some of which are represented here tonight, including a page turner. Annette Frank, representing Michigan Youth Arts for our Arts and Culture Trek Bus Grant and our Art Supplies Grant. Thank you to Lance Rosal and Andrew Bradkin, representing the Dearborn Cable Fund for the movie. And to two outstanding PTAs at Lindbergh and Duvall for their generous support. I'd also like to thank Pam Deneen, Principal of Lindbergh, Robert Addy, Principal of Duvall, and thank you both for providing my students with studio classes. I call my studio students creative leaders because they are. Our studio time allows them opportunities to problem solve, to think critically, to collaborate, and to creatively communicate their ideas, resulting in some award-winning work. It is my pleasure to introduce them now. Abby and Audrey.
Welcome everyone, and thank you for coming to our movie night. Hi, I'm Abby Finch.
I'm Audrey Malone. We want to welcome you to DuVall.
This year's project was a big one.
Miss Doman's studio students, Lindbergh Studio 106, collaborated on this special project. The project involved the 5 Ps. The first one was pre-production, which is planning.
Second, production, which is drawing and making sets.
3, post-production, which is editing.
4, presentation, which is premiering or showing the work.
And 5, preservation, which is having a copy for yourself and others.
We began the project by planning or brainstorming how we could make a documentary about Fairlane Estate. We needed to figure out what to include. Before we decided, we watched last year's DuVall Studios documentary, Our Historic Neighborhood.
We had a field trip to visit the estate and toured the mansion and grounds. This inspired us. Then we figured out the story we wanted to tell. We knew that we would have to divide the tasks involved, so we made teams. Each team worked on part of the movie.
Audrey and I selected our part. We were on the historians team. We researched the landscape architect Jens Jensen. He designed the beautiful gardens and meadows of the estate.
We found that Jens Jensen was a very intelligent man with a creative mind. Next, we created our script from our research.
We edited our script, then we filmed it.
We decided to conduct a live interview with the docents from the estate, so we needed to write questions to ask them.
We invited the docents to the school and filmed a live interview. It was fun learning more about the history of the estate.
Now we would like to invite other studio students up to tell you about their team and what they did to help create the movie.
Hello, I'm Anna Brown. In the movie, I interviewed Miss Karen Marzoni, the Director of Landscapes at the estate. I also created the animation of Henry Ford watching the birds. To create the animation, I had to do it step by step. I had to take pictures for every little movement. It took 64 slides and pictures to create this. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kendall, and in the movie, I worked on the camera and I helped film some interviews. I also worked on a speech about the birdhouses on the estate. I used the slate to start the filming. I couldn't have done it without the help from Mr. Kruzak. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lauren. And I'm Micah. We worked on the portraits of the people who visited Fairlane Estate. We also animated and did history on them. We helped other groups and learned that working together, anything is possible. We hope you like our historical document. Thanks. Hi, I'm Aidan Gonzalez, and I'm doing In the film, we worked on the greenhouse. We also worked on camera and audio. We hope you enjoy our film. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Vivian Wisniewski.
And I'm Eva Mendez.
We researched the powerhouse.
We also did the drawing under the camera and the animation of the powerhouse. It was really cool and it was fun working with each other.
We learned a lot about this innovative place.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chris, and I researched the Root Cellar. I drew under the camera. I had fun learning about the Root Cellar. This was an interesting place to research. Hello, my name is Aidan Gonzalez. I worked on the bird morph and the peacock cutout animation. I also filmed a little at the estate. The bird morph was a series of drawings changing from bird to bird. It took a long time and a lot of effort, but it was all worth it in the end. Thank you. Hi, my name is Brandon. I was one of the historians at the start of the movie, and I researched facts about Henry and Clara Ford to let people know who they were. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alex Shuff. I worked with Grace Roberts on researching the architecture of the mansion and the architects who worked on the mansion. I was also the voice of Henry Ford in the beginning animation of the movie. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Grace. I mainly worked on the architecture of the estate, but I also helped on the worker animation, the music animation, and drawing under the camera. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bridget.
Hi, I'm Sophie.
Hi, I'm Ashley. I helped make this documentary by creating the 2 stop-motion animation pigs. I helped make this documentary by creating the puppet of Henry Ford.
I helped make this documentary by playing the voice of Clara Ford and creating the Clara Ford puppet along with helping with animation.
I'm Annabelle.
And I'm Vivian.
And we did the cutout animation of Henry and Clara Ford in the opening and closing of the gates.
We also filmed all of the credits and added animation to it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Avery Andrews. I researched Clara Ford's rose garden and also did a small cutout animation of Clara Ford drinking tea in her garden. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jacob. It was a fun experience learning about Henry Ford's treehouse. I did a drawing under the camera of it. It was also fun to go up into the real treehouse on our field trip. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sam.
And I'm Jake.
And we had a special opportunity to work on clocks.
We made the clock animation, wrote the script, and had a live interview with our cameraman.
I was also asked to redo the animation of the workers building the estate. I hope I volunteer to do something like that again. It was very fun.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Alex Ahmed. I was in charge of picking out music and explaining how the organ system worked. I helped animate my section with the moving notes and recorded the voiceover for that section. Thank you.
Hello, we're the Linbergh film crew. And I'm Ethan, and I did some camera work, and I also helped with the worker animation. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Con. Yeah, I lost my voice. Okay. Hello, my name is Connor, and I was the cameraman on the project, and I filmed all the Linbergh interviews. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Olivia Enquist. I'm a part of the Lindbergh film crew. I filmed a little bit, but my main job was the slate. What that basically is I tell the people that are getting filmed when to go and stop. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maddie. I was a part of the film crew, and I did audio. What we used was a device that looked like a phone, but with two mics sticking out. And after each interview, I had to check the audio recordings to make sure that the sound was good to put in the film. And I had a lot of fun doing it with John Kruzak and everyone in the film crew. Thank you.
And now it's time for the movie. We hope you enjoy.
Clara, did you hear about the studio students? They want to learn more about our estate.
Well, that's wonderful, Henry.
Let's let them in.
Hello, I'm Rami. I'm Brandon. Studio students from DuVall and Linbergh are collaborating on a very special project this year.
We are studying Clara Ford and Henry Ford Fairlane Estate, located in our own hometown, Dearborn, Michigan.
Henry Ford was a pioneering automaker who started the Ford Motor Company. He changed the way we manufactured goods, inventing the assembly line method of mass production. Clara Ford was his wife and the president of the National Garden Association.
If you live in Dearborn, you will see the name Ford on lots of cars, buildings, and streets. Ford World headquarters are still located in Dearborn, Michigan. Fairlane Estate began when the Fords decided to look for a new house. They found a 1,300-acre farm in Dearborn, right on the Rouge River. It seemed perfect. Woods, a river, beautiful trees, and it was for sale.
They bought the farm and began to work on the Fairlane Estate in 1915.
Before they moved to Fairlane, they lived at 140 Edison Avenue and was right at the corner of Edison and 2nd Street.
Clara and Edsel moved in first. Henry did not come in because he was overseas trying to stop World War I. He was talking with many diplomats about how they could cease World War I.
Hi, I'm Grace. I'm Alex. We'd like to tell you a bit about the Fairlane Mansion. Did you know that there was more than one architect that worked on the design of the mansion? The famous American architect Frank Lloyd Wright was selected first. He had only one meeting with Henry Ford. Frank Lloyd Wright is known for his prairie-style architecture. Frank Lloyd Wright believed that a structure should look as it naturally grew from the site.
Henry Ford loved nature, and his ideas for the mansion were influenced by Wright's ideas and the prairie style. Wright left for Europe and gave his work to Marion Mahoney Griffin. Griffin was one of the first licensed female architects in the world. She worked for Frank Lloyd Wright for 15 years. When Wright left, she was hired. She created architectural plans and watercolor renderings for Fairlane, but did not complete the job. William Tynes, an interior designer from Philadelphia, completed the mansion. He changed the prairie-style plans to a design influenced by English manor houses.
Mr. and Mrs. Ford had 1,000 men working here every single day when they were building this mansion. Can you imagine the skills they had to have to put all these heavy stones and put them in so they perfectly fit?
Henry Ford thought it would cost $250,000, but instead it cost $2.5 million to complete.
Mrs. Ford had to do the normal household things like buy carpeting for the house. What did she do? She bought carpeting for 56 rooms. She spent over $57,000 buying carpeting for these rooms.
Fairlane was named for an area in Ireland where Ford's grandfather lived. The mansion is a 31,000 square foot residence made from Marblehead limestone. The mansion contains a 4,000 book library, a heated indoor swimming pool with marble benches, a bowling alley in the basement, and a suite of rooms reserved for Thomas Edison, a close friend of the Fords. The interior woodwork is much admired. Every room has a view of the beautiful, natural environment surrounding the building.
Some very important people visited Fairlane Estate. That was Charles Lindbergh flying by. He is a famous aviator. He flew solo across the Atlantic Ocean.
John Burroughs was a famous naturalist. He and Henry Ford had an interest in birds.
Harvey Firestone was a famous industrialist who was best known for tires.
Thomas Edison was a close friend of Henry Ford. He visited the estate so often he had his own suite of rooms. He laid the cornerstone of the powerhouse at the estate. He was a famous inventor and improved the light bulb and other inventions.
Many other famous people spent time at the Fairlane Estate, including 2 presidents.
Henry Ford was very interested in clocks. Tinkering was one of his hobbies. He even had a special room for this hobby. He had a variety of clocks throughout the mansion.
On our tour, we noticed a beautiful grandfather clock at the top of the grand staircase. It shows the phases of the moon on the clock face, showing the phases of the moon, an example of how important the natural world was to Henry Ford. When we toured the mansion, we found out something amazing and innovative about the Ford's love of music. Clara Ford played music on an organ that could be heard throughout the house. The system is called an organ system. When Clara played the music, the sound went from the room into a system of tubes that stretched throughout the house, so you could hear it in every room.
Have you ever experienced the beauty of the landscape of the Fairlane Estate? All of the landscaping was done by a Danish-American landscape architect, Jens Jensen. During the first 19 years of his life, Jens Jensen lived with a wealthy farming family.
That cultivated his love for the natural environment. Jens saw a connection between performing arts and nature. Jens included a council ring on the property of the estate.
The council ring is made out of layered stones and served as a gathering place for the natural settings.
It took Jens Jensen 6 years from 1916 to 1922 to complete the landscaping architecture of the Fairlane Estate.
Some say he loved nature so much that he could practically speak to the trees. Jens Jensen said, "Trees are much like human beings and enjoy each other's company. Only a few love to be alone."
And he loved hawthorn trees. He planted them on a lot of his designs and at other estates too. And that was because of the strong horizontal branching of the hawthorn tree, reminded him of the Midwest plains and prairies. But also that tree is really favored by birds and wildlife. And so since we know that Henry and Clara Ford loved to watch birds, I'm going to guess here that they probably liked hawthorn trees too.
Let me tell you a little bit about the treehouse. Ford had built the treehouse in an old oak near the original entrance to Fairlane Drive, sometimes spending the night in there with his grandchildren. We had a tour of Fairlane Estate in November. We saw a really big treehouse. We got to climb up into it, and it was really fun.
Clara also was into the gardens much. She created the National Women's Farm and Garden Association, and she was president of this association from 1924 to 1937.
There were two things that Mrs. Ford loved. One of them was butterflies. She loved butterflies.
She was a big doer. Clara had over 1,000 rose bushes on her property. In 1930, they wrote that she had the most elaborate garden devoted to roses on the continent of North America.
The Rose Terrace is located on the 2.5-acre rose gardens of the Fairlane Estate. Clara Ford and her friends sometimes had tea parties in this rose terrace. There are a lot of different flowers in the rose garden, but most of all roses, and they can all be seen from this rose terrace, as well as a water fountain and the left side of the Fairlane Mansion. There are more than 350 different kinds of roses, and there are more than 10,000 plants in all.
Mrs. Ford and her head gardeners and Jens Jensen did plan a sequencing of the blooming of plants in the gardens. And to this day, we see that and are supporting that. In the early spring, you see the bulbs come up like blue scilla bulbs and white snowdrops, and that happens late March, early April. And then followed by daffodils and tulips, viburnum shrubs and lilacs. And then after that, there's the iris in bloom and peonies. And then all summer long, there's roses in bloom. And many, many varieties of perennials and annuals that bloom all the way into early November.
And a garden, to be a work of art, must have the soul of a native landscape in it. We are so lucky to have this beautiful estate right here in Dearborn.
Some of the other things she was involved with at that time, she worked with workers and built 3 different greenhouses. They also built peacock houses, chicken coops, chicken houses for the chickens, taking care of the deer and all the animals they had on the house.
Alfonso D. Cully was the first gardener with 25 other gardeners.
They had mushroom growing beds.
The greenhouse included
carnations,
lilies,
orchids,
chrysanthemums, but today they call them mums.
Also snapdragons in many different colors.
And marigolds. The greenhouse helped the Fords grow their own food and beautiful flowers. It was an important part of the estate.
Henry and Clara Ford loved nature. Henry loved birds and was a member of the Albane Society at Fairlane. At Fairlane, the Fords provided bird feeders, warm water in the winter, and 500 bird houses at the estate. They had 500 bird houses. The birds helped control insects and provide beauty to the environment.
And then kind of related on the inside, we believe they spent a lot of time on the sun porch. That area of the house looks out over the Rouge River, and we know they love to watch birds. And so the big windows on the sun porch probably provided a lot of opportunity to watch birds along the riverbanks.
Did you know that Henry Ford dug underground tunnels throughout Fairlane and even through parts of Dearborn?
One of the tunnels at the estate ran from the basement of the mansion to the garage. It is approximately 300 feet long, or the size of a football field.
The Root Cellar is an interesting building on the estate. A root cellar is a structure that is covered by a hill on all three sides besides the door.
Back in the 1800s, before people had modern refrigeration like we have today, they needed a cool, dry place to store their root crops like potatoes and carrots and parsnips. And we believe it was built by the farm family that owned the land before Henry and Clara Ford purchased it.
Today, they store garden tools, wood, hay, and light bulbs in the root cellar.
Did you know that Henry Ford built his own powerhouse?
Yes, it is a building that is next to the mansion.
The powerhouse was hydropower energy. It was powered by the Rouge River and generated light through the whole house and other buildings.
Because he had his own source of power, Henry Ford did not have to rely on anyone else for his energy needs.
The cornerstone was laid by his friend and inventor, Thomas Alva Edison.
How much has the estate changed since Henry and Clara Ford lived there? Most of the original buildings are still there. Buildings like the gatehouse that used to be located near Michigan Avenue, where the entrance once was, is gone, as well as the ice skating building on the pond. That's no longer there. But most of the other buildings are still there, and the landscape is really quite intact. You can still walk through the same meadows and garden areas that Henry and Clara Ford walked through. But a lot of that has to do with many, many years of volunteers and student interns and others working very hard to repair and restore those landscapes. Well, I'd like to just say that it's a real exciting time to be working at the Henry Ford Estate. We're doing a lot of research and also a lot of repairs that have been needed for a long time. And we know that more restoration work is going to be underway soon. So for me, it's a very, very exciting time to be at the Henry Ford Estate.
During our research of Fairlane on the Library of Congress site, Fairlane is recognized as one of the most stunning yet controversial architectural masterpieces of the 20th century, belonging to Henry Ford, one of the most influential men in the world.
Thanks for visiting our estate. We hope you enjoyed it. Come again soon.